The loan officer does not look up when Isaiah walks in. This is the first thing. Not the last, not the worst, but the first. And it matters because it sets the temperature of everything that follows. The branch of Cornerstone Federal Bank on the corner of Delmore Avenue and 9th Street has 12 desks arranged in 2 rows of 6, and 11 of them are occupied, and the one occupied by a man named Gerald Pitts is the one Isaiah has been directed to by the woman at the front, who also did not quite look at him directly, who aimed her eyes somewhere around his left shoulder and pointed toward the back of the room with the specific imprecision of someone who has already decided this interaction is not worth her full attention. Isaiah walks to Gerald Pitts' desk and stands there for a moment, and Gerald Pitts continues typing. Not urgently, not toward any visible deadline, just typing, with the deliberate pace of a man who has somewhere decided that the time of the person standing in front of him is worth less than the completion of whatever sentence he is currently composing on his screen. Isaiah waits. He is 38 years old, and he has been practicing patience his entire life. The specific patience required of someone who learned early that impatience would be held against him in rooms like this one. He is wearing a charcoal gray blazer over a white Oxford shirt. His shoes are clean. He got a haircut 3 days ago. He knows this should not matter, and he also knows it does. And the gap between those two things is where a significant portion of his life has been lived. Gerald Pitts looks up. "Help you," he says. Not, "How can I help you?" Just, "Help you." The contraction of a full sentence into something that sounds like a question, but lands like a skepticism. Isaiah sits down across from him without being invited to sit. He places a manila folder on the desk between them. "I'm here about a business loan," Isaiah says. "I have an appointment. Isaiah Coles, 2 o'clock. Gerald Pitts looks at his computer screen. He moves his mouse. He looks at the screen again. "Coles," he says, and types something. "What kind of business?" "Commercial real estate development. I'm expanding an existing portfolio. I need a $10,000 bridge loan to cover a gap in closing costs while a larger transaction finalizes." Gerald looks at him now, really looks at him for the first time, and Isaiah watches the calculation happen in real time. The clothes, the desk, the manila folder, the address on the pre-filled forms that Gerald pulls up on his screen, which lists a zip code Gerald recognizes because it is the zip code on the east side of the city, where the houses sell for $80,000 and the check cashing places are on every other corner. Isaiah watches Gerald make a decision about him and watches the decision get filed and watches Gerald's posture change very slightly, settling into a particular kind of comfortable authority. "Business income?" Gerald asks. Isaiah tells him. Gerald types without visible reaction. "How long has the business been operating?" 7 years. "And the current outstanding debt?" Isaiah tells him that too. Gerald types. He pulls up another screen. He prints something, glances at it, places it face down on his desk. He folds his hands. "Mr. Coles," he says, and even the "Mr." sounds like a performance, like Gerald is complying with a workplace policy rather than extending a basic courtesy. "I have to be honest with you. Based on what we're seeing here, the risk profile isn't something we're in a position to work with. A $10,000 loan at this income-to-debt ratio, with the business address you've listed." He pauses here, and the pause is its own kind of sentence. "We wouldn't be able to approve that." Isaiah does not move. "Can I ask, what specifically is driving that assessment?" Gerald shifts. "It's a composite picture. Credit utilization, the nature of the assets, the business structure. We look at the whole picture." "The whole picture," Isaiah says. "That's right." Isaiah looks at the manila folder on the desk between them. He looks at Gerald. He makes a decision of his own. "I understand," he says. He picks up the folder. He stands. "Thank you for your time." Gerald Pitts nods with the particular relief of a man who expected more argument and is grateful not to have to provide more justification. He is already turning back to his screen before Isaiah has fully stood. Isaiah walks out of Cornerstone Federal Bank on the corner of Delmore Avenue and 9th Street at 2:17 p.m. on a Thursday in October. He stands on the sidewalk for a moment in the autumn light. He is not surprised. He has not been surprised in a very long time. He pulls out his phone and dials a number, and when the call connects, he says simply, "Go ahead and make the call to First National." 14 years earlier, the city is different. Everything is different, and nothing is different. And Isaiah Coles is 24 years old, and he is standing in the backyard of a house in the Delmore neighborhood that his father has been renting for 22 years, and his father is dying. Not dramatically, not quickly. The way people die when they have worked themselves into a specific kind of exhaustion that the body can no longer absorb, quietly, in increments, in a house that is not theirs, in a neighborhood that has been told for 40 years that it does not qualify for the kind of investment that would make it something other than what it is. His father's name is Robert Coles, and he spent 31 years working maintenance for the city's transit authority, and he is 61 years old, and he has congestive heart failure and $4,200 in savings, and he owns technically nothing. He owns one thing. He owns a legal pad. 37 pages of handwritten notes in his particular cramped script, which Isaiah has always had to hold at a slight angle to read. Documenting everything, Robert Coles spent 22 years observing about the Delmore neighborhood. Every vacant lot and its ownership history. Every building that sold below market and why. Every landlord who collected rent for 30 years without performing a single capital improvement. Every block that sat one well-placed investment away from something fundamentally different. 37 pages of a man watching a neighborhood get systematically undervalued and writing down everything he saw. He gives the legal pad to Isaiah 3 weeks before he dies. "I never had the money to do anything with it," his father says. He is lying in the hospital bed they have set up in the living room, and his voice is smaller than it used to be. Everything is smaller. "But I understood it. I understood all of it, and that's yours now." Isaiah takes the legal pad. He holds it with both hands like it is a thing that could break. "What am I supposed to do with it?" His father looks at him. "Build something," he says. "On top of everything they said we couldn't have. Build something on top of it." Robert Coles dies on a Sunday in November 14 years ago. Isaiah is 24 years old, and he has $800 in his checking account and a job doing data entry for a title company downtown that pays him $16.50 an hour, and he has 37 pages of his father's handwriting, and he has a specific and burning understanding of systems that he acquired not in a classroom, but in the space between what the world told his family they were worth and what he watched his father understand about the gap. The title company is The Education. He works there for 3 years, and he learns everything. Not just the technical knowledge, the deed transfers, the title searches, the lien structures, the closing processes, but the systemic knowledge, the way money moves through property, the way ownership is documented and transferred and obscured, the way a building can be worth 3 different amounts depending on who is looking at it and why. He reads everything. He arrives early and stays late, and asks questions that make his supervisors slightly uncomfortable because the questions are too precise, aimed too directly at the mechanisms behind the procedures, and his supervisors are people who follow procedures without examining mechanisms. And Isaiah's questions reveal that gap in a way they find unsettling. He saves $400 from every paycheck. This requires a specific kind of discipline that people who have not needed it do not fully understand, not just resisting spending, but actively restructuring the meaning of money, treating every dollar as a unit of future possibility rather than present relief. He eats rice and beans 4 nights a week. He does not have cable. He takes the bus. He lives in a studio apartment that costs $620 a month in a building that he has, using his father's legal pad as a guide, correctly identified as being owned by a company that is one estate dispute away from being motivated to sell. At year 3, he has $28,000 saved and a first purchase, a vacant lot on Merriman Street that the city has been trying to offload for $22,000 for 4 years because nobody who has been looking at it has been able to see what Isaiah sees. He uses $22,000 of his savings and he keeps the lot for 18 months, and then he sells it to a developer for $51,000 because he was right about what it was worth and the developer was right to pay him. $51,000. He holds the check for a full minute before he deposits it. He thinks about his father. He thinks about 31 years of transit maintenance and $4,200 in savings and a legal pad. He deposits the check and he goes home, and he does not celebrate. He opens the legal pad to page 4 and identifies the next property. This is how it works for 7 years. Not glamorously, not linearly. There are 2 transactions that go wrong. One of them, significantly wrong, a commercial building on Hatcher Avenue, where the environmental assessment reveals contamination that the asking price did not account for, and that Isaiah's cash reserves in year 4 cannot absorb without real pain. He absorbs it. He restructures. He spends 14 months working through it, and he comes out the other side with a different relationship to risk and a more sophisticated understanding of due diligence that he could not have bought in any classroom. By year 7, he has a portfolio of 11 properties across the Delmore neighborhood and 2 adjacent areas. Combined assessed value, $4.3 million. Annual rental income, $380,000. He has 2 employees, a property manager named Darnell, who grew up 3 streets from where Isaiah grew up, and a part-time bookkeeper named Claire, who does 3 other small businesses and who has told Isaiah twice that his financials are cleaner than clients who have been in business 3 times as long. He has $1.2 million in a business account. He has a personal account with $340,000. He has been featured in a regional business journal that ran a piece about community developers on the east side, and the piece ran on page 14 and used a photo taken outside one of his buildings in which Isaiah is squinting slightly against the afternoon sun in a way that he does not love, but that his property manager says makes him look thoughtful. He needs $10,000 because the Caldwell Street acquisition has a closing date that has moved twice already, and his liquidity is temporarily concentrated in an account that requires 72 hours to transfer without incurring fees that are functionally equivalent to what he would pay in loan interest anyway. $10,000 bridge loan, 60 days. It is, from any rational underwriting perspective, one of the lowest risk loan requests that Gerald Pitts has processed in years. Isaiah knows this. He also knows that Gerald Pitts looked at the zip code and made a different calculation. This is not the first time. It is the 4th time. 3 different banks in the past 18 months, 3 different versions of Gerald Pitts, 3 different face-down printed sheets and folded hands and composite pictures. Isaiah is not angry. He moved through angry somewhere around the 2nd bank and came out on the other side of it into something colder and more purposeful. He is a man who understands systems. He understands what Gerald Pitts is and what Gerald Pitts represents, and he understands, with the precision his father taught him, by writing 37 pages of observation in a cramped hand on a legal pad, that systems reveal themselves most clearly in the moments when they think they are invisible. Gerald Pitts thinks he is invisible. He is not invisible. Isaiah has just decided what to do about that. He calls his attorney that evening. Her name is Renata Okonkwo, and she has been his attorney for 4 years, and she is one of 3 people in the world who knows the full picture of what Isaiah has spent 2 years building in the background of his real estate business. She is sharp and specific, and she does not waste words, which Isaiah has always appreciated. He tells her about the meeting. He tells her what Gerald said and what Gerald did not say, and what the face-down printed sheet almost certainly contained. "You want to proceed?" she asks. "I want to proceed," he says. "The timing is right," she says. "The Williams transaction closes in 6 weeks. When that clears, the deposit from the Meridian portfolio transfer comes through at the same time." "I know, Isaiah." She pauses. "When that posts, we're talking about $50 million passing through a single account in a 48-hour window." "I know." Another pause. "You want to open that account at Cornerstone Federal." "I want to open it at the Delmore Avenue branch," he says. "Gerald Pitts's branch." Renata Okonkwo is quiet for a moment, and then she says something that sounds very much like a laugh, compressed into a single exhale. "I'll start the paperwork on the new account tomorrow." 3 weeks later, Isaiah walks back into the Cornerstone Federal Bank on the corner of Delmore Avenue and 9th Street. It is a Tuesday this time, just past 11 in the morning, and the branch is moderately busy. He walks to the front desk, and the woman at the desk is different from the woman who was there in October. Younger, with reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, who makes full eye contact and says good morning and means it. He tells her he would like to open a business account, and she directs him to a desk on the left side of the room. The man at the desk stands to greet him. It is not Gerald Pitts. This matters, and also does not matter, in the way that individual faces within systems both matter and do not matter. The man's name is Antoine, which his nameplate confirms, and he is 29 and attentive, and he asks the right questions and listens to the answers and handles the account opening with a professionalism that is simply, straightforwardly, good service. Isaiah opens the account. He transfers $15,000 into it as an initial deposit. He fills out the paperwork for wire transfer authorization. He shakes Antoine's hand. He leaves. This is not the moment. The moment comes 23 days later. The Williams transaction closes on a Friday. Simultaneously, the Meridian portfolio transfer, the result of a 7-year relationship with a group of private investors whose assets Isaiah has been managing through a separate vehicle, a relationship that has grown from $8 million to $50 million through compounded returns that have outperformed the comparable market index by 3.4% annually. Processes is scheduled. Renata has coordinated with both originating institutions. The receiving account, the new Cornerstone Federal account, opened 3 weeks ago by Isaiah Coles, is correct and confirmed. On a Monday morning at 9:14 a.m., $50,412,000 posts to an account at the Delmore Avenue branch of Cornerstone Federal Bank. At 9:31 a.m., the branch manager, whose name is Carol Hessler and who has been branch manager for 11 years, and who has never in 11 years seen a deposit of this size originate from a residential address on the east side of the city, calls her regional director. At 9:44 a.m., the regional director calls the head of commercial banking. At 10:02 a.m., the head of commercial banking personally calls the phone number on the account and reaches Renata Okonkwo, who answers on the second ring and who confirms every detail of the account in a tone of voice that has been specifically calibrated to communicate competence without warmth. At 10:23 a.m., Carol Hessler calls Isaiah directly. Her voice has the particular texture of someone who is trying to recalibrate very quickly and is almost succeeding. "Mr. Coles," she says, "we'd love to welcome you formally as a client. Would you have any time today or tomorrow to come in and speak with our commercial banking team about how we can best serve your needs?" Isaiah looks at his phone. He is in his car outside a property on Caldwell Street, which closed this morning through a different financing arrangement, a private credit line established 4 months ago by Renata in anticipation of exactly this sequence of events. He thinks about Gerald Pitts. He thinks about the face-down printed sheet and the composite picture and the zip code and the particular sound of a door being closed. "I can come in Thursday," Isaiah says. 10 a.m. "Wonderful," Carol says. "Absolutely wonderful. We'll have our full commercial team available. Is there anything you'd like us to prepare?" "Nothing specific," he says. "I just want to talk." Thursday morning. The Cornerstone Federal branch on Delmore Avenue and 9th Street looks the same from the outside. It looks the same from the inside. 12 desks in 2 rows. The woman at the front desk makes full eye contact. She says his name when she greets him. She has been told his name. She walks him to the conference room at the back of the branch, where Carol Hessler and 2 other people are waiting, standing when he enters, hands extended, names offered. Gerald Pitts is not in the conference room. Gerald Pitts is at his desk in the main branch area, and Isaiah can see him through the glass wall, and Gerald Pitts has been told enough that he is not typing. He is very still in the particular way of a person who is trying to appear normal and is not succeeding. Isaiah sits down. He places the same manila folder on the table, the one he brought to Gerald Pitts' desk 6 weeks ago. Carol Hessler begins. She has prepared remarks. She talks about Cornerstone Federal's commitment to the community, their commercial lending programs, their relationship banking approach, their interest in being a long-term partner to growing businesses in the region. She is professional. She is thorough. She is trying very hard, and Isaiah gives her credit for trying very hard. When she finishes, he opens the manila folder. Inside is a single document, the denial letter that Gerald Pitts processed 6 weeks ago, printed on Cornerstone Federal letterhead, stamped with the branch code that corresponds to this specific location. A $10,000 loan request, denied. He places it on the table and slides it to the center. The conference room is very quiet. Carol Hessler looks at the document. She looks at Isaiah. He watches the understanding arrive in her face in a sequence. Recognition, then confirmation, then something that might be mortification, and then the very professional recalibration of someone who manages a branch and understands that whatever she says next will matter. "Mr. Coles," she says. "I'm not here to make a scene," Isaiah says. "I don't need an apology, and I don't need the loan anymore. I found another way, like I've been finding other ways my whole life. I'm here because I want you to understand what happened in this branch 6 weeks ago, and I want to know, specifically, what you intend to do about it." Carol looks at the two people beside her. They look at the table. "There will be a thorough internal review," she says. "Of this instance?" Isaiah says. "Yes. And the others?" She does not ask what others. She is smart enough to understand that he means something systemic, and she is honest enough not to pretend the systemic question is not the real question. "That's a fair challenge," she says. And then, with what seems like genuine effort, "That's the right challenge." Isaiah nods. He picks up the denial letter. He folds it and places it back in the folder. He has a copy. He has 3 copies. Renata has a copy. A journalist at the regional business paper who has been following Isaiah's work for 2 years has been briefed and is waiting for Isaiah's word about whether to publish, a word Isaiah has not yet decided to give. He stands. He does not close the folder. "I'm going to keep the account open," he says. "For now, not because I need it, because this branch is in the neighborhood I'm rebuilding, and I want to see whether this bank is part of that or not. That's a choice you make, not me." He leaves. He does not look toward Gerald Pitts' desk on the way out, which is its own kind of decision. The journalist's story runs 6 weeks later. Isaiah has given his word. The story is careful and specific and documents not only the Cornerstone Federal denial, but a pattern of lending disparities at 3 regional banks that a data analysis commissioned quietly by Renata 6 months ago has made visible in numbers that are very hard to argue with. The story runs on a Tuesday. By Thursday, it has been shared 14,000 times on social media. By the following Monday, the regional director of Cornerstone Federal has issued a public statement. By the end of the month, the bank has announced a $2 million community lending initiative specifically targeting small business owners in historically underserved zip codes on the east side. Isaiah does not attend the press conference where Carol Hessler stands at a podium and announces this initiative. He is at a job site on Caldwell Street, walking through a building that is being converted from a derelict storage facility into 42 units of mixed-income housing, the largest project he has undertaken, the one that required the bridge loan that Gerald Pitts denied him and that he found another way to finance, because he has always found another way. He is wearing boots and a hard hat, and his phone rings 4 times during the walkthrough, and he lets it go to voicemail each time. Darnell is beside him, pointing out a framing issue on the 3rd floor, and Isaiah looks at the issue, and they talk about the fix, and they walk through the rest of the building. And when they come out into the October afternoon, it is the same October as a year ago, same angle of light, same particular quality of East Side afternoon, where the air comes off the river and carries something that smells like the past, and something that smells like what the past is becoming. He thinks about his father. He thinks about 37 pages in a cramped hand, and the specific sentence, "Build something on top of everything they said we couldn't have." He thinks about Gerald Pitts and the face-down printed sheet and the composite picture and all the composite pictures that have been compiled about people like him in rooms like that, one for longer than either of them has been alive. He thinks about the 42 units going up behind him and the 12 families already on the wait list and the small business loan fund he and Renata have been quietly structuring, using a portion of the Meridian portfolio returns, specifically designed to serve business owners who have been turned down at regional banks and who have the fundamentals to succeed and who simply needed someone to look at the full picture, the actual full picture, not Gerald Pitts' full picture, the one that includes everything Gerald Pitts looked at and everything Gerald Pitts chose not to see. Isaiah calls Renata back on the drive home. She answers immediately, which is one of the things he values most about her. She is always already awake to whatever moment you're calling from. "The Caldwell walkthrough went well," he says. "We're on schedule." "The announcement from Cornerstone is generating coverage," she says. 3 media requests for you today." "I saw. You want to respond?" He thinks about it. The light changes, and he stops at the intersection and looks at the corner of Delmore Avenue and 9th Street, which he can see from here. the Cornerstone Federal Branch with its blue and gold signage and its 12 desks and everything that happened inside it a year ago. Not yet, he says. Let them talk. We have work to do. What would you have done in Gerald Pitts's chair that afternoon? It is worth sitting with that question for a moment, not to condemn but to examine, because Gerald Pitts is not a monster. Gerald Pitts is a system made visible in a person, and systems are built from choices, and choices are made in ordinary moments that feel unremarkable at the time. He looked at a zip code. He looked at a face. He made a decision that took 30 seconds and that he probably did not think about again before the end of the workday. This is how it works. This is exactly how it works. Not in dramatic moments of declared hatred, but in 30-second decisions made by people who do not think they are making a decision about anything other than risk. Isaiah Coles did not change Gerald Pitts. He is not sure Gerald Pitts is fully changed. What he changed is the calculation. He shifted the cost. He made the 30-second decision visible in a way that had weight and consequence, and a journalist who would put it in a story that 14,000 people would share. He did not do this out of revenge. He did it because he understood, with the precision his father handed him in 37 pages of careful handwriting, that systems change when the calculus changes, and the calculus changes when the cost of the decision becomes visible to the people making it. The Small Business Loan Fund opens its first application cycle in January. 47 applications in the first month. Isaiah reviews everyone. He does not make the decisions alone. He has a committee, 4 people with relevant expertise, including a banker named Antoine who left Cornerstone Federal 2 months ago and who approached Isaiah after reading the journalist's story with a directness that Isaiah recognized and respected immediately. Antoine reviews financials. He sees composite pictures too. They just look different when you know what you're actually compositing. The first loan goes out in February, $10,000. A woman named Sandra Williams, who runs a catering business out of a commercial kitchen in the Delmore neighborhood and who has been turned down by 3 banks and who has books that are clean and a client roster that is growing and a vision for what the business becomes that she articulates in her application with the clarity of someone who has been seeing it for years while waiting for someone to look. Isaiah signs the approval letter himself. He thinks about his father when he signs it. He thinks about the legal pad. He thinks about the specific weight of being seen accurately. $10,000, the same amount Gerald Pitts denied him. This is not lost on him. He does not call it irony because he does not need a label for it. He just understands it as the shape that certain things take when you build long enough and with enough precision. The same number, different direction. He sends Sandra Williams a handwritten note with the approval letter. It says, "The full picture looks right to us. Keep building." He seals the envelope. He goes back to work.